all three actually conducive to increased productivity. And here the IMF will continue to support the region through technical assistance and capacity development programs, with the proposal to actually set up a training center in this region. Second, we believe that corruption needs to be addressed head-on in the region. Yes, I agree with you, yes. And we believe that 2019 is an opportune moment to provide increased transparency and foster more trust between citizens and governments. Third, women and other underrepresented groups can be empowered by continuing to eliminate legal and economic barriers. And I'm pleased to say that through the hard work of the government and private companies, female labor force participation in Kazakhstan is now at 65%, which is the highest in the region and a benchmark for every country in Central Asia. Fourth, and that actually dovetails on third and may be conducive to third, the financial sector should be sound and its services widely accessible. Only 45% of adults in the Caucasus and Central Asia countries have a banking account, 45%. Almost 20% lower than the average in other emerging markets. Furthermore, only 3% of citizens have mobile money accounts. Now, these numbers are a clear opportunity, and they reveal an incredible untapped resource for the region, and a resource that is environmentally sustainable and that can procure diversification from predominant activities that have something to do with extracting commodities from the soil. So, in addition to that, and you've alluded to that, Mr. President, if Central Asia can harness the power of fintech as emerging economies in other regions have done, the potential gains for women, for young people, and for the poor are significant. Each of these principles is part of the toolkit the region needs in order to reach a higher plane of inclusive growth. And while this morning we are focusing on inclusive growth within countries, clearly the fact that you are all here assembled indicates that there is a lot of potential for growth between countries. When you look at the trade between countries in the region, we're hitting at about 10%, which is clearly significantly lower than what the potential could be. Within the European Union, that trade within the region is 60%. But that landscape of relatively limited trade is beginning to shift. In just the past year, there has been a surge of trade in the Kazakhstan-Uzbekistan border, and any of you who wants to ship goods between the two will probably have to stand in line and wait, because there are queues of trucks by the border. Again, digitalization will be of great use in that respect. New regional opportunities, which have been alluded to by the Vice Premier of China in the form of roads, railroads, electricity grids, are finally coming online. And last month, a Silk Visa plan was announced to allow for easier travel between the nations of Central Asia. Now, these initiatives can clearly rebuild the Silk Road connections that once helped this part of the world become a hub for global trade and learning. And they can play a role in each country's journey to achieve more diversified, more sustainable, and more inclusive growth. So let me conclude. We believe at the IMF that this inclusive and sustainable growth is well within reach for the nations and all countries in the region. And we can actually draw inspirations from our surroundings. What surroundings, will you say? There's nothing very high around. Of course, we are in the steppes and the flatlands. But think of the famous Kazakh proverb. Kazakh hearts are like the steppes, wide, kind, and generous. If we all embrace that spirit, we can generate economic growth that will raise living standards and provide new chances for millions within the region. With that, I thank you very much for your attention. Rahmet.
Thank you, Madame Lagarde, for your thought-provoking speech. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the key partners connected with Kazakhstan by close cultural and historical ties is the Republic of Armenia. The two countries cooperate fruitfully within the Eurasian Economic Union. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Armenia, Armen Sarkisyan, has a solid record in civil service, especially in the diplomatic sphere, where he represented the Republic of Armenia at the European Union. President Sarkisyan is also a scientist in the field of physics, astrophysics, computer modeling, political science, and economics. I now have the great honor to pass the floor to the President of the Republic of Armenia, Armen Sarkisyan.
Your Excellency, First President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, dear Nursultan Abishevich Nazarbayev, Mr. President, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great privilege and honor, and I think practically, I'm looking forward to be a part of this important summit and conference. I was honestly inspired with an introduction that was made by Mr. Grob and then later by the speech of President Nazarbayev, Madame Lagarde and Vice Prime Minister. And this encouraged me to put my hand into my pocket and take out my speech and read it. So I decided maybe it will be the best if I will just react to a couple of points that were raised here and to emphasize the importance of specific development locomotives that are going to run us in 21st century. Again, thanking presidents for inviting me for this conference, I would like to start with an important point which is called vision. It starts with a vision. Everything starts with a vision, with a dream. We are human. And I do remember early 90s when I first came to this place. It was a small town in the middle of Kazakhstan. Beautiful, more beautiful space rather than a city. But there was a dream, there was a vision, and that vision was created and then implemented by President Nazarbayev, a dream to have his country's capital city here. And only a couple of decades have passed. Look what happened to the dream and the vision. We're sitting in a wonderful city Nur Sultan, which in some sense, as you said, is the heart of Eurasia. I maybe will say, Mr. Moderator, maybe it is already the capital of Eurasia as well. So indeed, everything starts with a vision. And thank you, President Nazarbayev, for your vision and visionary leadership of Kazakhstan, but also for visionary leadership in the whole area of Eurasia. Now, what is our vision for the next 20 or 30 years globally? What sort of world would like to live? Would you like to live in a world which is separated? We would like to see a world with more and more walls of Berlin, or would like to see a world which is really global? I think if somebody is uncomfortable with the world globalization, I would use another word, globally integrated world. We are already in globally integrated world, and there is no way back. No way. And that started not 20 years ago, it has started hundreds of years ago when the first Silk Roads were built and people were trading from China through Kazakhstan, and then through Uzbekistan, through Samarkand, Bukhara, through Caucasus, Armenia, going to Europe, to Marseille, and to further to Manchester. So the Silk Road and the globalization has started not now, it has started in Middle Ages. And we, Armenians, were a part of that. We were trading from Hong Kong up to Marseille. So that's something that I will come to that a bit later. So what is our vision for the next 20 and 30 years' time? In order to think about our vision in 20, 30 years' time, let's look back in 20, 30 years ago, where we were. Did we have these small gadgets that is controlling or it's all of our lives, from our family photos to the complete data and financial analysis? No, we didn't. So what's going to happen in 20, 30 years' time? When we are going to embrace really the artificial intelligence, which is going to completely change the way we run healthcare, because it's going to help our doctors to do exactly what is necessary for our bodies. Where are going to be when the communications will be completely different, higher quality, where all of the industrial production will be related and connected to artificial intelligence and management of big data. Are we going to be afraid of it? No. Because at the end of the day, it's a blessing, because that vision, that reality is going to create, is not going to reduce the number of workplaces in the world. In fact, it's going to increase it dramatically. Go back 30 years ago, we were all afraid of IT, saying, oh, computers will come, people will lose their jobs. In reality, it has created millions and millions of jobs, starting from India, China, everywhere in the world. So it's a new era, and I look at that very positively. The new era that we are going to embrace. Are we ready for that? I'm not sure, 100%. Can we be ready for that? I'm sure 100% that we can be ready for that, and we have to start being ready, and our focus there should be, I think, on education, preparing our children to the next phase, to the real 21st century. Because the 21st century didn't start at the year 2000, it's starting now. We are just at the gateway of 21st century. Now, what are going to be locomotives? Our moderator said, as the first locomotive is the human being. Indeed, as Mr. President Nazarbayev brought the data, the biggest 5 or maybe even 10 companies now in the world are not the natural resources companies. They are the ones that are working in IT sector and high tech, and are all focused into artificial intelligence. But the core of that change, are 2 factors. The first one, indeed, is the human being, the creative man. So what is going to drive the change is going to be an innovative person with the tools of the 4th Industrial Revolution, with the tools that will enable them any individual to be creative, even at home. Will change dramatically the way we run our business. That will change dramatically the way we run our contribution to the economy. You can be creative working from home or a cafe from a Starbucks. But look at the biggest companies and where they were born. In a garage, in a cafe, here. In the dreams and the quality and innovation of individuals. So, 21st century, the driver, innovative work, creative work. And the second one, of course, indeed, the 4th Industrial Revolution. But in this case, I will argue that it's going to be another revolution. I have the feeling that this is not going to be the 4th Industrial Revolution that will be followed with the 5th one, but we're entering in a phase of rapid or revolutionary evolution. So the changes will not happen in 30 years' time, another 30 years' time. We will be changing, the world will be changing every day, and we have to be ready for that. Now, to conclude, of course, it will be unfair if I will not speak about Armenia and the whole region. I think the innovative innovative type of the world that is opening the doors for us is opening doors for closer cooperation of everybody, especially the ones who are already working together. As it was said here, Armenia and Kazakhstan are countries. Armenia, Kazakhstan, and Central Asia have been working together for ages. Before Middle Ages and after, especially during the Silk Road and the sort of a renaissance of economic growth. Maybe the 21st century will be another renaissance, and a renaissance in a form that the politicians should be also those who know exactly the new tools of communications of the 21st century, because it will change the way we understand also democracy in the 21st century, and communicating not only from election to your public, but every day. And I think it will change also the way entertainment will collide and be integrated also with real life economy and politics as well. So where does Armenia stand there? I think I look to the future of my state and nation with positive feelings and a vision that a small state, Republic of Armenia, that is the home of a global nation. There are as many Armenians living in Russia as in Armenia. The second biggest city Armenian is not, after Yerevan is Los Angeles. There's 1 million living in France. There are Armenians from Singapore up to Argentina. So it's a small nation, but a global, small state, but a global nation. So we are a part of 21st century, globally integrated, and I'm encouraging everybody to do so the same. Be globally integrated, creative, and resistant to the changes, because this world definitely is going to be a world that will change every day. One thing will be constant in our life, that it will change every day. So we have to be ready. And it all starts with the younger generation. It all starts with education. So with this positive note, Mr. Moderator, I will encourage our discussions to go in a form of how we are going to embrace the future and how we are going to prepare our children to the 21st century. And it starts with a vision. And we are in the center of a vision that started a couple of years ago. Thank you very much. Rahmet.